Welcome to the module 2 of AZ-104, AZ-700, where we're going to discuss about the design and implementation of hybrid networking. Now, let me briefly explain that what is hybrid networking. Now, hybrid networking does not mean that you are only connecting your on-premises networks to Microsoft Azure network. No, hybrid networking at a very high level means that a connection of two or more networks which are situated in two different sites. The hybrid networking is also whenever you connect two different cloud providers like AWS with Azure or Google Cloud Platform with Microsoft Azure, then that also falls under the category of hybrid networking. Now, in hybrid networking, in this module, we're going to learn about some of the methods through which you can connect your devices, your other cloud platforms, as well as the other your data centers, your branches with Microsoft Azure. Now, the reason why hybrid networking is gaining uh, a lot of grounds these days, a lot of popularity these days is because many companies do not want vendor lock-in. They do not want it to be constrained to even single cloud platform. And nowadays, the companies are having the requirement that they wanted to connect to other cloud platforms so that they are not having suffering from vendor lock-ins, as well as they also wanted to connect their data centers, their branches, and their users and devices with Microsoft Azure Cloud. Now, because it is a session of AZ-700, so we're going to discuss about how can we connect the networks of your data center, the network of your branch offices and other cloud platforms with Azure Virtual Network. So let us begin with this module. So firstly, if you ask me that what are the different hybrid options through which we can connect our various services, so the very first option is of hybrid connectivity is Azure VPN. So with Azure VPN, you start transferring the data from one network, that is from your Microsoft cloud, to the another network, that may be your on-premises data center, that may be another virtual network itself in Microsoft cloud, or even to another VPC in AWS or another cloud network in Google Cloud Platform through an encrypted tunnel, which is known as a VPN tunnel, as you can also see in this image as well. So by this, you make sure that though your data is flowing through the internet, but then also it is in an encrypted tunnel, so that no one else from the internet can um, watch what is going inside. Also, you can connect your various devices, whether Windows, Android, or iOS, or Mac OS, or any kind of devices with your virtual network with VPN as well, in the same encrypted manner by the using of various tunnels. So for we know that IPsec has been become a protocol, a very famous protocol for VPN. So Azure VPN also leverages the facilities of IPsec and Internet Key Encryption or IKE versions. The second option that we have for hybrid connectivity is Azure Express Route. Now for certain companies where if they have their research center, like for medical research companies like Serum Institute of India, Bharat Biotech. So just giving a few examples. So they don't want any kind of any even a single chances of a data corruption, right? They want a highly private network. So for this, you can lay down your own fiber of your own cables so that your network, your data center network, is directly connected to Azure using the cables, as you can see in the diagram as well. So for this we have express route, which gives you very reliable network connection between your Azure services as well as your on-premises or even your branch offices, and it gives you up to 100 Gbps of bandwidth. So we're gonna discuss about the more use cases of our express route as we move ahead. Now, if you wanted to have a more complex scenario where you want to leverage both VPN connections as well as a private connection like express route, so for this we have Azure WAN, which is wide area network. So with this you can connect your different virtual networks through to your different hybrid networks, maybe your headquarter, maybe another branch offices, maybe your remote users. So we're going to discuss about all these options as we move ahead. So coming for the very first option, which is your Azure VPN gateway. So VPN here stands for Virtual Private Network. So as the name also suggests over here, that it is a private network created virtually. That means it will be leveraging the use of encrypted tunnels. So what do I mean by encrypted tunnels? By encrypted tunnels, I simply mean that you'll be having your virtual network. Let me give it a nice shape. So by encrypted tunnel, as you can also see in this diagram, you will be deploying a gateway. A gateway is just like a you can say it is a gateway is just like your entry point. It is a main gate of your office, maybe your home. So by this, you made a special, you can say a kind of road on which you can make your data to flow from one gate to another gate. That means from one gateway of your virtual network to another gateway, maybe of your on-premises or to your other cloud network. And inside that, you make encrypted data flow with the use of IPsec and various keys. So with that, if someone tries to peek into the uh, tunnel, that okay, which kind of data is flowing into? Is there any image file going on, or if there is any text file moving around, then that person cannot find that what is actually happening because that tunnel is encrypted. So whenever you plan to get send encrypted data over internet without any much you can say management overhead, then you can choose for Azure Virtual Private Gateway. So we're going to see that how actually virtual private gateway helps you and your company as we come into the slides. So the very first is that how can you plan your VPN gateway connection? So you for with the VPN gateway you have two different options for connectivity. The very first is a site-to-site VPN. So with a site-to-site VPN you can connect two different networks by using a site-to-site VPN. Now those two different networks may be your Azure virtual network and your on-premises network. It may be your virtual network in Azure and as another virtual network in another cloud platform. Like you can connect a site-to-site VPN with Azure VNet to AWS VPC. So it's all depends upon your needs. That what business use case you wanted to solve with this. Like for example, if you want your users to connect simultaneously to both your Azure virtual machines as well as the EC2 instances in AWS. You want your Azure virtual machine to able to connect to able to ping your EC2 instances residing in AWS. Then you can with a site-to-site connectivity do that. Now you also have an option of point-to-site connectivity. That means if you wanted to um, connect certain devices with your Azure virtual network, like for example, if you want to connect the devices of your company, that as we all know that nowadays various companies are sending devices like laptops to their employees. Now if you want your employees to able to uh, access your internal websites, maybe your HR website, maybe your payroll website, which is only meant for being accessed for your employees, not the outside internet. And for that you created a private DNS zone, and only is the use of that private IP of that application you want your employees to connect to that using the company's laptops. So what you can do is for solving of this scenario, you can connect the company's laptop to that particular virtual network inside which your private application is residing. So whenever the person has logged in into their company laptop, then only they will be able to reach that website. And if they are using any other device, then they will not be able to reach to that private application. So this can be one of the use case of a point to site connectivity. Now if you ask me that how Azure manages this connection, then the answer is a VPN gateway. So a VPN gateway is simply a number of machines which reside in a particular subnet. As we know that every virtual network has its partition known as subnets. So it resides in a special subnet which is known as a gateway subnet, and which works as an entry point for getting into your virtual network. So whether you wanted to connect an encrypted traffic from your on-premises network or to any particular device, the data will be first getting into your VPN gateway, and up through that VPN gateway it will be then getting into its destination. Now if you ask me that is there any bandwidth issue, is there any you can say, so the VPN gateway acts as a single point of failure? Well, the answer is almost no. Because Azure makes sure the high availability in mind, and with the use of that, that's why we have a specialized subnet, because behind the scenes VPN gateway comprises of many virtual machines which is actually handling your data. So there is almost no bandwidth issue, there is almost no single point of failure for your VPN gateway. And as we move ahead, we're gonna also discuss about the high availability scenarios for your VPN gateways. So let us first show you that how can you create a VPN gateway in Microsoft Azure. Now please note one thing here is that the provisioning of VPN gateway takes almost 30 minutes, or sometimes even more than that, because it takes it creates many machines behind the scenes. So for creation of a virtual network gateway, you have to firstly come into your portal.azure.com, then search for virtual network gateway. And as always, you have to select the subscription, then you have to give it a particular name, choose a region for your VPN gateway. Now, the rationale behind choosing a region for a VPN gateway is then a VPN gateway can only be associated to that particular subnet which is residing in that particular region. That means if you have a virtual network in Japan region and you created a VPN gateway in India region, then they will not be able to pair to each other. Now, as you can see, there are two kind of gateway types. The very first gateway type is a VPN, and the second one is express route. So that means through which connection you want. If you wanted to connect through, if you want to, yeah, the data to be transferred using internet, then you have to choose the VPN. But if you have your own specialized what we can say a cable laid down between your data center and your Azure co-location facility, then you can choose for express route. Right now we want to send the data using internet in an encrypted manner, so we use VPN gateway. Now there is also two kinds of VPN. The very first is policy based and second one is route based. So by a policy based VPN, that means whether you want to send the data using the routes or using a specific policy. So we're gonna come this option as we move ahead. Now, stock keeping unit or SKU. Now a SKU decides that how many connections, how many point to site connections, how many site to site connections you can create by using of this virtual network gateway. And we also have a detailed information about the SKU as we move ahead. And in that slide we also have generation discussed. So we leave with these two options now. Now the choice of virtual network gateway, virtual network, sorry. So because I have created a virtual network in the Japan region, that is why it is showing me this virtual network. But if I go ahead and change the region, then I will not be able to see that particular virtual network, which reconfirms that only that particular virtual networks can be associated which are in the same region as of your VPN gateway. So let me quickly create a VPN gateway. So it is asking me for, as I already mentioned, that VPN gateway resides in a specific subnet. So it is asking me that what IP address range you want of for your VPN gateway subnet. So it looks fine for me. Or if you want, you can also change that. Now a VPN gateway also requires to have a public IP address because it is actually transferring the data through internet. And for that you need a public IP address for connectivity purposes, so that your on-premises data center, your on-premises VPN device, your another cloud VPN device can find the VPN gateway of Azure Virtual Network. So you can create a new, for my case I have to create a new public IP address. I will name it as VPN IP. Now the VPN gateway can also span to various availability zones. Now, for quick refreshment, for quick revision, availability zone means different data centers residing in a particular region. So you can choose it to be a zone redundant. That means it will be distributed across all three data centers in a region, or you can choose any particular data center. Now for active mode, that means if you have two VPN gateways, then okay, I will come to this later. Now you can also configure BGP, which is Border Gateway Protocol. That means it will dynamically add routes to your route table. Now simply that means is that if you deleted any particular virtual machine, if you added a new virtual machine in your virtual network, then you don't have to every time go ahead and manually add the IP addresses in the route table of the virtual machine deleted or created. BGP will take care and automatically add the routes. So I am disabling it for now, but if you want, you can enable it. Now at last we will review and create. So this will create our virtual network gateway. Now coming back to our slides. Now for gateway subnet, you have to use a IP a CIDR block of /28 or /27. That means that you must have 2 raised to the power 5. That means 32 IP addresses minimum. Because as I mentioned that it uses many virtual machines behind the scenes, so you need that kind of IP addresses available so that your virtual machine can actually reside in that subnet. So for this reason, you need to have a /28 or /27, and you don't need to have a very big subnet where you can say a /24. No, that's not needed. There will be more than enough. So as you can also see this point that many VMs are created. Now, so we already saw these various options which are needed to creation for VPN gateway. Now there are two kinds of VPN gateway. The very first is route based and second one is policy based. So as you can see, the route based VPN supports your IKE version 2. That means Internet Encryption Key version 2. So it is a more, you can say, a more new version whenever it comes to encryption, and you can also use dynamic routing protocols like BGP for route based VPNs. So the benefit that you have by choosing this option is that you don't have to, as I mentioned earlier also, that you don't have to manually add the routes for any machine created or deleted. Now a policy based VPN are found to be more primitive one, and a policy based VPNs can be used on the basic gateway SKU only, and we're gonna see the SKUs later. And you can see that it is best compatible with legacy on-premises VPN devices, and it also supports IKE version 1. So moving ahead, now as I mentioned that we have a special slide for discussing about the SKUs. So as we see that as you move ahead, as you choose the more relevant the more advanced SKU with the new generation, you will be having number of site-to-site VPN tunnels increased, the IP version connection increased, and the throughput also increased. As you can see, the first generation and the very basic one only gives you 650 Mbps throughput, while the last one gives you 5 Gbps, which is a fairly good amount. Now please know that whenever you uh, go forward, then for more features, then you have to pay more. But it depends upon your needs and what you actually seek. Like for the throughput is also, as you can see, it is also affected as you choose the SKU. Now if you ask me about the pricing of Azure VPN Gateway, so let me head to the pricing portal for Azure. Now for Azure VPN Gateway, there is no upfront cost. You only pay for what you use. That means broadly Azure VPN Gateway is built on for how much time it is being provisioned and available. That means if you provision a VPN gateway and it ran for 1 hour, then you will be paying for that 1 hour only. There is no special fixed charge for creation of VPN gateway. So if I see that if I wanted to provision my VPN gateway in any of the regions available. As you can see, a lot of regions, maybe central India. Then as you can see, then on hourly basis for the basic one, I'll be just it will be costing me 2.71 rupees per hour. The bandwidth I will be getting is this. Number of site to site tunnels, number of point to site tunnels will be this. But as we move ahead, we're gonna pay more, but in turn we also get more facilities and features. The maximum throughput increases to 10 Gbps, and also the site to site and point to site tunnels also increases. Now there is also a data transfer charge associated with the VPN gateway. So for whenever the data is going into Azure data center between virtual networks, then it is free. But if the data is going out of the Azure data centers, then it will be costing you this much money. So always feel free to get into the VPN gateway. That means the pricing page of Azure, and then you can explore the pricing for various options. So let us move back to our slides. Now, one thing to note here that you cannot resize your VPN gateway into totally a different generation. That means if you have chosen a VPN gateway of generation 2, then you can switch between these three options within the same generation. But if you want to upgrade yourself from generation 1 to generation 2, then that's not allowed. Now, a VPN gateway creation for a site-to-site tunnel is not enough. You also need to create a local network gateway. So what is a local network gateway? So for this, let me quickly show you an example with a diagram. So as you can see the diagram, whenever you wanted to connect your Microsoft Azure Virtual Network with any other network, maybe on-premise, maybe another cloud, something, then you have two gateways. The very first which is residing on the Azure side, the another one which is residing at the on-premises side. Now, now a local network gate, we understand the VPN gateway is an entry point for the data which is coming into your virtual network. But what is a local network gateway? A local network gateway, you can say a local network gateway is a way of Azure to store the information about your on-premises gateway. That means if I wanted to register this Cisco gateway to Azure, so that I can tell Azure that okay, you have to send the traffic from my virtual network to this Cisco VPN, so that in various VPN gateway that is available over the internet, how would Azure know that to which VPN gateway I have to send the data? So for this, we have to register a local network gateway, so that Azure can came to know that okay, I have to send to this gateway. So for creation of a local network gateway, you have to go and go to Azure portal, search for local network gateway, and then you just give me a moment. It will, yeah. As always, you have to choose the resource group, choose the region, the name, local network gateway. Now, as you can see the endpoint option over here. Now this endpoint option is used to specify. So for here, you can specify the IP address of your VPN device that you have on your on-premises or on the other cloud. Like for example, I created a virtual private gateway in AWS. Then that must be having an IP address. So I have to specify the IP address of my AWS VP gateway over here. Or if I have an on-premises VPN gateway like Ubiquiti, like Cisco or something, then either I have to specify that on-premises VPN's IP address or its domain name if it have any. Also the address space of that network to which that on-premises or that other cloud VPN is attached to. So with that, HO will get to know that okay, over the vast VPNs in internet, I have to send the data to this particular VPN. And once you have configured all this, you can next configure whether you want BGP enabled or not. If you want BGP enabled, then you have to give the autonomous system number of your on-premises network. We all know that every network has an ASN number, so you have to provide the ASN number and the BGP peer address in case if you want BGP routing. Otherwise, you can simply make it disabled, and once you have created all this, then you can review and create. Now moving back to our slides. So we discussed all this in the portal. Now, how can you configure your on-premises VPN devices? So whenever you are configuring your on-premises, so let me show it you. So whenever you create a VPN device, and after creation of a VPN device, if you go to connections, then you can download a script. So let me show that script to you. So Azure provides you a script. That means a script for configuration. So as you can see, this is a script given by my Microsoft VPN. So as you can see, it is a sample VPN tunnel configuration template for Cisco based devices. So if in my on-premises I have a Cisco VPN, then I can download this after creation of my VPN gateway. I can download this script, and based on the configuration options given over here, I can configure my on-premises VPN gateway so that they can start transferring data to each other. So as you can see, there is various different information given over here. The Azure ASN, PRIP, on-premises ones. So there is a lot of options given over here. IKE versions, meaning all of that option you can find over here. So you have a list of supported VPN devices for Cisco, Juniper, Ubiquiti, Barracuda Networks, and other ones as well. So as you can see from the diagram as well. So let me zoom it a bit. So on your on-premises, you have various server clusters and servers and workstations connected to your network gateway. That network gateway will use a publicly shared key or PSK for encryption purposes, so that if the data is encrypted, it can decrypt the data and send to the destination. Now it will be leveraging a site-to-site tunnel. Of course, it is encrypted, and Azure it will be encrypting it with the key. Right now, yeah. So as you can see, that there is a service endpoint as well. So the reason of the service endpoint is that we all know that while creation of a subnet, we can specify the service endpoints. That means one-on-one connectivity, a private connectivity of your Azure subnet to Azure PaaS services like Azure App Services, Azure Storage Accounts, so on and so forth. So if you want your on-premises devices, devices to be able to connect securely to Azure PaaS services, then you can go ahead and deploy a site-to-site VPN, and then you can the subnet to which that VPN is attached to, you can also attach service endpoint. So ultimately, the servers is able to access the Azure PaaS services like Azure Files, Blob Storage, App Services, Web Apps, SQL databases, so on and so forth, by using a secure connection. So it is one of use case of a site-to-site VPN connection. Now for VPN connections, once your gateway is provisioned, then you can on the left hand side you can go for add connection, and there you have to specify the name, the connection type, whether you want site to site or point to site, the network gateway, local network gateway you have to choose, you have to enter the shared key that you have, and then your connection will be established. I'm sorry because I do not have any VPN gateway provisioned as of now. That is why I will not be able to show this option to you. Now there is also whenever you are creating a VPN connection, there is also some of the pain points of engineers. So the very first is that you have to firstly, before provisioning of a VPN gateway, you have to validate the throughput. How much throughput you want? Whether you want 500 Mbps will be fine for you, or you want 10 Gbps. So according to that, you have to choose the SKU, the stock keeping unit, and the generation of your VPN gateway. Now, there's also various kind of logs available for troubleshooting connectivity issues for your VPN gateway. So as you can see, the very first log is the gateway diagnostic log. So it contains the diagnostic logs for gateway configuration events, primary changes, and maintenance events. And you also have a tunnel diagnostic log. Which contains the tunnel state change events. That means it is connected, disconnected, and what were the events that happened and all that. You also have a route diagnostic logs. So you can log the how much changes were made in the route table by use of BGP. You also have another logs as well. So to verify that the shared key and VPN peer IPs are correct, otherwise you will not be able to connect to your VPN devices. So there's many points available here. You can also utilize network watcher. So with the use of network watcher, you can find out that how much whether your on-premises network is able to connect your Azure network or not. And what is stopping? Is there any network security group which is coming in the way of connection? If there is any particular route, so if you didn't specify this correct route, so these are the popular VPN connection troubleshooting options. Now coming to high availability options. Now you can have two kind of scenarios. The very first is the active or standby. So where you configure a VPN gateway. So you have one VPN gateway deployed on your Azure side and another VPN gateway deployed on your on-premises side. But if somehow due to some any of the reasons, maybe you by mistake deleted the particular resource group on which your VPN gateway was residing. So because there is no VPN gateway, your connection is lost. So what you can do is you can provision a new VPN gateway which will be in standby mode. So whenever there is any glitch, any thing wrong happened with the VPN gateway, then you can connect your on-premises to the another extra VPN gateway. In case of unavailability of the primary VPN gateway. Now, a more high available scenario for this is that you have two VPN gateways and two on-premises gateways on your on-premises side. So with this, you are simultaneously connecting and using all four VPNs. This is known as active mode. That means data is flowing through all of these four ones. So it is highly available. So even if you chooses a lower SKU, that means you chooses a basic SKU with 500 Mbps. So you got 500 Mbps with this SKU and 500 Mbps with this SKU. So aggregately you got 1 Gbps, right? So it all depends upon your needs, upon your use cases, upon your own management. That means what your management seeks with the particular solution. Now, for demonstration purposes, it asks us to create a virtual network gateway. So we already did that. Now, because I do not have any virtual network gateway provision, so I cannot show you the connected devices blade, but yeah, I can't show you that because I don't have something created with that. Yeah. Okay. Now, you can also refer to Microsoft Learn modules if you wanted to deepen your understanding. Now, so it is simply a simple exercise which says that you have various different virtual networks residing in different virtual in different regions, and then you connected your on-premises with a particular VNet, and that VNet is having appearing with other VNets in Azure. Okay, so what benefit you got after this complex network diagram? So with this complex network architecture, you make sure that your on-premises is able to communicate to your research subnet. How? Because your on-premises is connected with site-to-site VPN to this West US, and this West US one is having appearing with the West India, then any data, any packet will move to on-premises to West US and finally to West India. That means the traffic is flowing. So you don't have to create three um, a separate site-to-site VPNs and three separate VNets for connecting various virtual networks together. You can also leverage peering in addition with site-to-site VPNs. Now, how can you? Now we have discussing about site-to-site VPNs for a very long time since. So we're gonna explore in more detail about the site-to-site VPN connection options. So let us move ahead. Now, a site-to-site VPN, as I mentioned in the very beginning, with site-to-site VPNs, we can connect two different networks together. So, uh, as you can see the diagram as well. Now, if you have your own premises, not even your own premises, even your other cloud platform, because every other cloud platform, whether it is AWS, whether it is GCP, that means your Google Cloud Platform, they have a concept of site-to-site connectivity. They have a concept of gateways. So instead of using a on-premises gateway, you can also use your maybe AWS virtual private gateway or your Google's gateway or even your on-premises gateway, and then you can send the encrypted traffic through the internet to ultimately your Azure Virtual Network Gateway, and then you can give them access to your another resources, maybe your virtual machines, and even to another subnets and other services as well. Now let us leverage the about the point-to-site VPN connections. So as I mentioned that in point-to-site VPN connections, you connect various devices together. So by various, so if you ask me that what is the benefit of connecting various devices in a virtual network, I can simply sign into the portal and then I can access the virtual networks. Yes, my friend, you are right. But certain companies have very sensitive applications deployed in a private subnet in a virtual network. Like if you have your internal data, if you have residing in a particular subnet, if you have a particular application residing in a particular subnet, and you only wanted your customers to be your client, your employees to be able to access that, and do you not want any public routing to that particular application. So for that kind of purposes, you can leverage the power of point-to-site VPNs. So if this is a virtual network, and in that particular virtual network, you have a virtual machine, which is actually hosting any sensitive application. Maybe it stores your critical databases. Maybe it stores the information about your clients. Maybe it stores the very confidential research works. So you don't want that to be publicly accessible. So that kind of purposes you can connect your your devices, your employees' devices, and those devices which you distribute to them when they join the company. So with that, you make sure that okay, your employee are only able to access those sensitive information using the company given devices only, not with another device. So with this, you can establish a point-to-site VPN connection. Now, if you ask me that if a point-to-site VPN connection is very hard to maintain, no. So point-to-site VPN connections require certain steps to be followed. The very first step is that you have to register the device with Azure Virtual Network. Now, if you ask me that how actually we can register our devices with that, so one of the steps for registering our devices is that you can use certificates. Now, certificates in the sense you can have two kind of certificates. The very first certificate is known as a self-signed certificate. That means you yourself claim that you okay, I trust this device and give it access to my virtual network. Or you can use an enterprise, we can say your enterprise certificates. So with that you say that okay, I'm giving this enterprise certificate and you make that certificate register to your Azure virtual network as well as you save that in your client machines. And with that, your Azure virtual networks will be able to connect to um, your devices of your company devices, right? And for this purpose, we have various specialized protocol which is used for point-to-site connection. The very first is OpenVPN protocol, which is an SSL or TLS based VPN protocol. So that means it uses HTTPS, of course, right? So the benefit of OpenVPN connection is because various corporate firewalls allow TCP port 443, which is for HTTPS. That means You don't have to reconfigure your on-premises firewall or your company's laptops or devices firewall to allow OpenVPN connection because it uses HTTPS, and it can also able to connect to Android or iOS versions and to another versions of Windows, Linux and Mac as well. Now we also have a second option of secure socket tunneling protocol, which is SSTP. Now it is also a TLS based VPN protocol, and also of course it also uses port 443, but it is only supported for Windows devices, and it supports for all versions of Windows which are I think if I'm not mistaken Windows 7 or later. Now you also have a supported another protocol for point-to-site connections in Azure, which is IKE version 2 VPN. So it is a standard IPsec VPN solution. We know that IPsec tunnels are widely used for VPN connections, and IKE version 2 leverages that tunnel as well. So as you can see in the diagram as well, you can connect various devices with VPN by use of a route-based VPN gateway. Now, did you notice why we have a route-based VPN only, not policy-based VPN? The reason being that the point-to-site connection is only supported by route-based VPN. The policy-based VPN does not support point-to-site connections. Now, for point-to-site authentication methods, now how can you trust that the user who is trying to connect to a virtual machine is the genuine user or not? So for this, you need some kind of authentication in place. So the user must be authenticated before Azure accepts a point-to-site VPN connection. Now there are two mechanisms for which you can use that. The very first is, as I mentioned while drawing the diagram, that you can have your certificate authentication. Now with the certificate authentication, in your device, a certificate needs to be installed. And for this, you have to actually install two certificates. The very first is root certificate, and another one is a client certificate. And then you have to store both of these certificates on your VPN gateway. And once that is stored, Azure knows that okay, if this is the root certificate and these are the client certificates, I will only be allowing the connection from the devices which have these client certificates. No other device will be able to connect to other virtual network. Now you also have another option. If certificates looks very complex to you, then you also have an option for Azure Active Directory authentication. Now it allows your Azure AD users to able, that means your Azure AD devices. We all know that Azure Active Directory also allows you to register devices. So you can make sure that the registered devices in Azure Active Directory are able to connect to your virtual network, right? And you can also leverage the additional benefits of Azure Active Directory like multi-factor authentication in place with that. Now, the third option is that you have is using Azure Active Directory domain services. We all know that Active Directory domain services which we have in our on-premises um, also register devices. But what additional thing you have to maintain over here is that you have to use a radius server, which is a specialized server which will sync your on-premises devices which is registered to your domain services to Microsoft Azure. Now, the Redis server can be deployed either on your on-premises or your Azure Virtual Network. But please keep in mind that the role of this Redis servers is only to sync the registered devices between your Azure Virtual Network and your on-premise, right? So moving ahead, so it is asking us, so how can you actually configure the point-to-site connection? So because I don't have any VPN right now, so I cannot show you the point-to-site connectivity options. But if you have any VPN created, by going to the left hand side and going to the point-to-site configuration, you can click on configure now, and then um, you'll be asked to download. So you'll be asked to download a zip file that contains the settings required for these clients. That means whether you have a Windows device, then you'll be having a setting, because you need to have a VPN client installed on your machine in addition to the certificates and the authentication method to be able to connect to your virtual network. So for So the zip file will give you that particular agent installation setups and links, right? So the VPN client that you install in your machine will be automatically getting an IP address from the range that you specify. Now, of course, if you want to deepen your understanding, you are always welcome to go ahead and watch the Microsoft Learn modules. Now, so far we discussed about that how can we have a one-to-one connection of our virtual networks, Azure virtual networks, with either our on-premises but or to our particular devices. But if you wanted to have a more complex network architecture, if you want to use various connectivity options like express route, like VPN gateway, and site-to-site as well. So for this, we have an option of Azure Virtual WAN. So as you can see in the diagram also, you can connect various virtual networks with Azure WAN, and ultimately you can create a wide area network, a virtual wide area network. So you can have your own cables laid down by using our express route. You can send encrypted traffic using site-to-site VPN, and you can connect your devices by point-to-site VPN, and all that will be able, you can manage all that under a single roof with Azure Virtual WAN. So Azure, we're going to discuss about what is Azure Virtual WAN, what are the different SKUs, and how you can connect your cross-tenant virtual networks to Azure Virtual WAN as we move ahead. So Azure Virtual WAN is just like a big hub and spoke network. Remember a hub and spoke network? That means there is a hub which act as a single point of connectivity to your spoke networks. That means this is your hub, and these are the various spokes. So if my headquarter needs to connect to this branch office, then it can transfer the data from Azure Virtual WAN, and then that data will be ultimately connected to this branch office, right? So you can also connect various different virtual wide area networks with each other by using a hub to hub connection. Now, as I mentioned earlier also, that it brings together your all connectivity, your all hybrid connectivity options, whether it's site to site, point to site, or express route. And then you can connect your virtual networks, your different workloads with a hub. And there you have two types of hub networks available. The very first is a basic one, and the second one is a standard one. So as I mentioned, there you have two ones. So as you get more features, you have to pay more. So for basic one, you only have a configuration of site-to-site VPNs. That means you can connect various site-to-site VPNs with virtual WAN. But as you move for standard one, you can use express routes and all that connected with virtual WAN. Now, if you ask me that what is the use case of having a Azure Virtual Hub, then for any of the organization which is very large enough that have various headquarters, multiple branches, offices, and various remote users because of this COVID lockdown, or maybe the COVID scenario, so for them, Azure Virtual WAN will be very useful. So with that, they can leverage the power of the traditional software defined wide area network or SD-WANs that we have through in which we use various MPLS options. So virtual WAN can also give you the same kind of feeling because it connects you and it gives you the flexibility and reliability of connecting various different uh, networks, whether it's your virtual networks or on-premises, and it just looks like you can say they are all in a what network. It just looks like that. Now, so there is also a private address space associated with Azure Virtual WAN. So if you ask me that, okay, what is the private address space? Then you always need a /24. That means you need /24 address space needed to create a hub. Now, if you use anything in the range from /25/32, it will produce an error during creation, of course. And you don't need to explicitly plan your subnet address space. That means you don't have to take a lot of stress that okay, what should be the subnet needs to be created for creation of Azure Virtual Hub, because it is a managed services, and it will automatically create appropriate subnets for your virtual network gateway. So hence it gives you less, you can say, a management overhead. Now you can use as a, so once the hub is created, you can, if you create a standard hub, then you can create various express route and point to site connection that you already have. Now the another one option that you have is that how can you connect cross tenant virtual networks by using a Azure Virtual WAN. That means if there are two different Azure accounts, then how can you connect them? Or even if a single within a single Azure organization you have different tenants, then how can you do that? So you can also do that, and it is very useful if you have client workloads that must be connected to the same network as of yours, but are on different tenants. Like I shows that is being depicted in the diagram as well. So maybe you are working on a client project. For this, you created a totally new virtual tenant, and the tenant needs to be connected to your virtual network. Then you can leverage the power of Azure Virtual WAN. So both of them can be in a single subscription, and then um, you can and of course they must be having non-overlapping address spaces. That means if it is having 10.0.0.0/16, then it should not be having 10.0.1.0/24 because they both will be overlapping addresses, and then your virtual network creation will be denied at this point. Now if you come to the routing options of Azure Virtual Hub, because routing is very important, because routing is just like, you can say, GPS. It tells the data, it tells the packet that okay, if you want to get to this particular location, then you have to take this and this path. And because Azure Virtual WAN has a, it helps you to manage a complex network which connects various different options, then you need to have a, you can say, a clear routing in place. So you can manage your routing by using of border gateway protocol. That means you will be having auto routing. You need not to maintain a manually a route table for specifying routes, right? And it can contain multiple gateways as well. So whether you have a VPN gateway specially created for site-to-site VPN, a VPN gateway specially created for your express route for connection of on-premises, as you can see over here. So for all of these different gateways, it can also provide the transit connectivity. That means if this particular VNet wanted to connect to on-premises, then it can connect using this hub. And for that, you need not to specify any special route. It will be automatically handled as Azure Virtual WAN is a managed services. And you can also get an aggregate throughput of 50 Gbps. That means you don't have to worry about that. Okay, if it is a single point of contact and there is so much data flowing through it, then do it affects my bandwidth? No, because you get an aggregate throughput of 50 Gbps. So you need not to worry about that. Now, as you can see over here also, that it is showing a sneak peek of the routing table. So if this is your virtual WAN connection, then the route table will be as follows. As you can see, that if someone wanted to connect to this, then it will show you that okay, this is the VPN connection, and the routes are propagating automatically with the use of BGP, Border Gateway Protocol, right? So if you ask me that how can I actually create a WAN in Azure portal, so let me show that to you. Of course, go to the search bar and search for virtual network gateways, virtual virtual WANs. Click on create. Of course, choose the resource group. Give me a moment. The location where you wanted to create. right? The name, sorry, name, and then the tier. So remember, whenever you choose the basic one, you will be only allowed to create site-to-site VPN connections attached to their WAN. But if you choose for standard one, you can choose any other option. And at last, you can review and create. So once you created that, on the left hand side, you will getting an option of various connections. So till it is creating, let us explore the pricing for Azure Virtual WAN. That how it will be costing you, how much it will be costing you for virtual WANs, right? So if we search for WAN, get to virtual WAN. So as you can see, if you choose a standard one, then you will be having 18 rupees per hour. But if you also use a firewall manager for, you can say, for filtering the traffic, then you have to pay 30 rupees. Now data processing charge is 1 rupee, almost 1.5 rupees per GB. Now for express route, you have this. If you attach an NVA, of course, for for secure routing purposes, then you have to pay this much. So for every option, for each and every facility that you want, you have to pay for this. But there is no upfront cost. That means if you just straight away provision the VPN gateway, then it will not be costing you. You have to only pay rupees 18 for that, right? So meanwhile, our virtual network gateway is provisioned. So on the left hand side, as you can see, the hubs. So inside that, you can create a new hub. Now hub act as a single point of contact for your various networks. You can give that any name. After giving up a name, you can specify the address space that you want. And as you can see, the creation will take 30 minutes because it behind the screens deploys various machines, right? So that is why it will take almost 30 minutes. Now, let me give any sample values over here. So if you want to connect various side to side, you can specify your side to side connections over here. For point to sides, you can also specify your express routes. So it gives you various different options from which you can connect, right? Now, moving back. Of course, if you want to deepen your understanding, you're always welcome for the Microsoft Learn modules. And we saw that how can we create a virtual WAN by using a portal. How can you create a virtual network appliance in a virtual hub? So by creation of a virtual network appliance in a virtual hub, you make sure that you filter the traffic. You only allow the genuine traffic to be flowed through your virtual hub and to the other connected networks. So if you ask me that how can we provision that and why do we need that? Then every company wants and of course makes the utmost security for their networks because they don't want their data to be compromised in any way. So having deployed a network virtual appliance is a best practice in your virtual hub. And because the virtual WAN supports various reliable connections from various different technologies, whether it is Microsoft or virtual networks or any other on-premises. So and it also supports various other networking partners as well. So if you have any Barracuda networks or CloudGen, so for which is used for various software-defined wide area networks, you also have a support for this. And all of these devices like your CloudGen WAN, your Barracuda, Cisco Cloud On-Ramp, so all are this known as network virtual appliances. And Azure do supports all of these. And they can be deployed directly into your virtual WAN. And then they can also have your externally facing public IPs. And this enables customers who want to connect to their branch offices with that network virtual appliance and ultimately to your virtual hub to take the advantage of end-to-end software-defined wide area network capabilities. I hope you are getting my point. So, if you ask me that how can you manage an NVA in Azure? So, yeah, you can choose to you have to firstly choose the NVA to what you want to deploy in Azure. So, for this, you must be having you can go to the marketplace. You can choose any NVA from there if you want. Then you can install the NVA of your virtual machine, which is ultimately residing in your virtual network, and then you can start managing the resources. So for this, you can use for creation of the NVA, you can use ARM templates, you can use PowerShell or Portal, so whatever you want. Now, if you ask me that how can you deploy your NVA in your virtual hub, then you can deploy your virtual hub. So you can access the Azure marketplace. So let me do that for you. So as you can see, you can also connect your virtual network gateways over here. You can add, you can connect your. Mm, give me a moment. So you can just give me a moment. Let me search for source groups. Go to the resource group in which I created my NVA. Click on create. I should be getting an option of network virtual appliance over here. Network. It is not showing me any option right now. Just give me a moment. So, okay, where that can be found? Resource group. Okay, so maybe in the networking. Virtual WAN, WAF, HashiCorp, VMware, NSX. Cross. Yes. Okay, yeah. So okay, I guess I have to create firstly a hub in virtual WAN. Let me go to WAN. Hubs. Let me quickly create an hub. We give a demo IP. Okay. Oh, so it will take 30 minutes. So I'm really sorry I can't show you this option right now. But once your hub is created, then you can go to. Then once your hub is created, you will get on the left hand side option. You will get. I guess under overview you can find the option of network virtual appliance, and then you can click on create link. And after that, you can choose various options of whether you want to connect your your Barracuda or Cisco or VMware solutions with that. Now, so whenever you are connecting that virtual appliance with your hub, you also have an option of infrastructure units. So it indicates the number of firewalls that you wanted to deploy, and with that you can get an aggregate bandwidth of all those with the hub you are creating. And for Barracuda firewalls, we need authentication token. So you can also get that by getting into this portal and while you are creating that. Right? So of course you can go to the Microsoft module for that, and um, that marks the end of this slide. So hope you got some of the knowledge about how can you connect your various hybrid networks, your various networks, whether it's residing on your on-premises, whether on your other clouds with Azure Virtual Network. Hope you enjoyed.